Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back through daily crypto news and analysis, and today we're going to be talking about the overall crypto market. So let's just dive in and let's talk about a few things. But before we start, I just want to ask guys, could hit that like button. It does help the channel grow immensely, and of course I always do greatly appreciate it. So honestly, today we've seen a little bit of panic throughout the entire market. Everybody was still calling for lower on Bitcoin, which, hey, it's expected. We're actually going to be talking about how low Bitcoin can go. And we are also going to be talking about if I am buying. As you guys already probably know, yes, I have been averaging into some positions, and I will talk about that and address that as well. But right now, we are definitely keeping a close eye out on Bitcoin. Yesterday, or I should say last night, before I went to bed, I made a video on XRP, and I talked to you guys a little bit about Bitcoin and the warning signs ahead. Essentially, what I talked to you guys a little bit about was Bitcoin sweeping the lows. It seems like we got a little bit of a nice test today on Bitcoin at a roughly 28.8K. I do believe that this could come down a little bit lower to sweep the lows at roughly 27.7K. We're also going to be talking about that and addressing it. But honestly, Bitcoin has been still holding up against the overall trend line. Now this is a trend line going back to like 2014. We're going to be addressing that as well in this video, and talking about what happens if that trend line does break. Where do we go from there? So let's just dive in and let's talk about it. So first off, there was all-out panic today as the indices did take a major dive, and honestly, when we refresh this, as you guys do see, this is still open. We're still seeing the Dow Jones, the Nasdaq, and the S&P 500 trading. They did look fairly rough. I did hold off on buying some positions. I was really looking at adding to my graph bag. I told you guys that I bought graph at around like roughly 12 cents. That's been one that I've been accumulating as it is extremely oversold. I'm looking to buy more at about roughly 14 to 15 cents. And it looks like we could be seeing that, little bit of a sell-off in the market. I also do think that altcoins are going to be taking a backseat. I told you guys, when we look at altcoins compared to Bitcoin right now, they will most likely not be in the spotlight for a little bit of time. So they will take that back seat, most likely until roughly the middle of summer, with some, altcoins breaking out a little bit. But yeah, I mean, this was pretty rough. We've seen the Dow Jones, the Nasdaq, and the S&P 500, breaking down a little bit today. What I am actually excited to see is how well Bitcoin is actually holding up against this. I mean, right now, the Dow Jones is sitting at roughly 31.5K, and I did, show you guys in the chart, or in the Discord, this chart that I was basically saying, what about max pain on the Dow Jones? This would basically be a test of 30K before having that nice impulsive move. Now, is this nice impulsive move going to be, coming for the Dow Jones? It's hard to say. We have to see. But right now, it looks like this could be coming down to test these lows if we do break down below the lows that we just recently seen going back to May 12th. Now, this did cause some panic throughout the market. A lot of people said, like, look at the Dow Jones. We're obviously about to crash. But, Bitcoin has been holding up pretty strong against this. I mean, if we look at Bitcoin right now, yesterday I did chart a little bit, and I told you guys, like, this is the demand zone that I'm really looking at for Bitcoin to come down to sweep, aka that 27.7K to roughly, like, all the way up to like 29.7K. And this was yesterday when we were really kind of trading against, like, resistance. I told you guys we were trading against that 10-day EMA resistance at roughly 30.8K, and we kept trading against that, and we still are trading against it, which is pretty rough. So this is why I've said, like, pay attention to this, because we could come down and test some significant, lows, all the way down to about like 27.7K. Now, once we do lose that 27.7K, I do look for that test down all the way to like 25 point, like roughly 3K, which was our low that we recently got. So with that in mind, I also do want to address the dollar. So on the dollar, I've been charting this on the macro view, and you guys do see where we are right now. We still are hitting a little bit of resistance here, which is coincidentally the resistance level that we hit back in January of 2017 before this ended up rejecting and coming down to test those lows at roughly 88.3 for the dollar. Now, if we do see that repeated pattern, if we do see this resistance zone turn a 180 on the dollar to come down to test some significant lows, that's going to be very bullish for us, and it's going to unlock the doors for Bitcoin to actually start to drive up in price. But again, I also do think that we are not going to just stop at this resistance. I told you guys that I'm looking at this 106 area for the dollar, aka the 702, to see if we will test that level before we reject off of it. But of course, I would welcome this to actually turn over on its side and drop right now. I know yesterday we did see a drop on the dollar, which everybody started to cheer for it. I mean, everybody cheers when the dollar starts to weaken a little bit, but we gained some steam. We bounced off of that 20-day EMA as well. So again, until the dollar really does do that collapsing move, I'm not going to get too ecstatic and bullish just yet on risk on assets, which is again, crypto, but I'm still taking some positions on averaging in, and I've been, transparent with you guys on that as well. But we do see the U.S. dollar finally dropped today. If the dollar continues to drop, all commodities will go crazy. Inflation combined with a weak dollar is the most bullish environment you can get for commodities. I also think that this is the most bullish environment you can actually get for risk on assets, which is also why I'm taking positions, right? Because as we are in this, market where, everyone is scared to buy because of, one, inflation rates. They think that the economy is about to collapse tomorrow. First off, market collapses take, some time. I actually do think that we have a little bit more leeway until we do see a full-on market collapse on stocks. Of course, I am, waiting for that collapse to actually happen as well. I've been transparent with you guys on that. I've actually been waiting to see a housing market collapse. I do plan on buying, again, real estate. So I'm really kind of looking at that currently, but hey, it is what it is. These things do take time, but I'm really kind of looking at the dollar, because if the dollar does do that 180 move, where we do have that collapsing, viewpoint on the dollar, while inflation is continuing to, get out of control, that will be very bullish for risk on assets and even commodities as well. Now let's talk about Bitcoin real quick. So first off, the bullish factor around Bitcoin is this inverted chart from Bitcoin Fuel. Now, excuse me. We do see here, the inverted Bitcoin chart is beautifully exhibiting the three peaks and domed house pattern. It's now at the roof stage. I have drawn two potential paths. I think going back in a V shape to the 40K area by July is a realistic possibility. Now, yeah, this could be a possibility, but, I'm not betting on it. I think that this, overall correction on Bitcoin is going to take a little bit of time. I also do think that this is a mid-cycle correction. And I've talked to you guys a little bit about the extended bull run, or the extended cycle, if you will. I do think that we are still in that extended cycle. And when we look at this, I mean, yeah, it could be possible that this could be, that plunge to 40 plus K. Which, by the way, this is an inverted chart for anybody, who is a little bit confused by what I mean by a plunge to 40K. It's essentially the, three peaks and domed house pattern, which is, what Bitcoin Fuel is talking about here, where we have the three peaks, the basement, the first floor, and then the roof, and then that plunge all the way down to the ground floor level, which is essentially inverted, so 40K plus. Now, this would be welcoming, and I do think that this would be great, but is this possible right now? In fact, a lot of people are actually questioning, if we are still in a bull market, which is totally understandable, and I do think that it is justified, especially by the charts. Do I think that we are in a bullish factor right now? Absolutely not. I think that we're in a, sideways chop city that feels extremely bearish, but I'm also very bullish on Bitcoin on the macro view, and also even on the viewpoint by around roughly the end of this year. And I've talked to you guys about that and my reasons behind it. Now, if we look at Bitcoin, what's the, next major step? What could be the bearish scenario for Bitcoin? Well, we do see here, Bitcoin is now on an important long-term trendline support. This is what I've been talking to you guys about. So let me actually open this in a new tab so that we can zoom in. So this is what I've been addressing and talking to you guys about for a very long time. We've broken down before on this trend line multiple times. In fact, when we look back in time, we've broken down below this in the 2013-2014 timeframe before going on that wave 5 parabolic move, as you guys do see. But, again, we see us even testing the bottom area of this trend line, which would be roughly around like the 18 to 19K zone on Bitcoin right now. We also seen us break down below that during the bear market after 2013 and 2014's topping point, as you guys do see before, again, ultimately going on that run in 2017 and 2018. We also see, again, during the bear market of 2019 and even March of 2020, us coming down below that trend line again. Now, yes, we have held it since the March of 2020 crashing point, but how long could we actually hold this trend line before, of course, going down even deeper on Bitcoin, testing the bottom support rung here at around roughly the 18 to 19K zone? Because that's what everyone is awaiting for, those lower prices to the 18 to 19K zone. In my opinion, are we at that point where we should be testing these bottom support levels on this trend line? It's possible. But in my opinion, when we actually kind of look at this chart right now, I would say that we're in that moment of, where everyone thinks that we are in a bear market, but most likely the opposite will happen. Of course, that is not the guaranteed, scenario, but, you know, I'm actually betting on this not breaking down below this trend line. Of course, once we do start to break down heavily, when we look at breaking down below the recent low on Bitcoin, that's when we should be extremely bearish. And that's this level down here at roughly 25 points. It's like 25.3K almost. Now, in terms of that trend line and in terms of that price action, I told you guys that it seemed very inorganic in terms of the sell-off pattern. That's why I didn't really kind of question it too much, and I wasn't, extremely bearish or panicky. I think that the scenario in terms of, oh, sorry, my bad. I think that the scenario in terms of the move on the Terra Luna situation, combined with the entire market pattern around that scenario, did help kind of streamline the fear in this market. Which is also why I've been telling you guys that I continue to stack XRP, XLM, and XDC. Of course, my buy ranges have always been extremely transparent on these. XRP I stack between 30 to 40 cents. XLM is honestly like a no-brainer move, honestly, at these levels. XDC, it's roughly between like the 3.5 to 4.5 cent zone. I think that that is a perfect area for me to really kind of, buy into XDC. These I also treat as a very long-term plays. And I did buy Hbar. I told you guys my buy range on Hbar between like the 7 to almost 8.5 cent zone, simply because I bought the major demand zones going back to like January of 2021. I expected those to hold. We did have a slight wick below. I don't know if this was an accurate wick, as this was on the Binance price chart, but I didn't see this on the Binance US chart. If we go to the US chart here, you guys have it. We didn't really wick down that low. It came down to about like 7 cents. But either way, I did buy a little bit roughly around that range. It wasn't a heavy buy because, again, I still do have a significant bag of Hbar. It was my number one holding up until Casper accumulation happened. But the reason why I felt confident buying altcoins and averaging in around this range is because, one, I'm expecting this trend line to hold. If it doesn't hold, yes, I will start to risk out and de-risk myself, with sell-offs on some of those altcoins to short it. But, in my opinion, I think that we just recently seen the lowest fear levels on the Fear and Greed Index in over 2 years, since going back to as far as like March of 2020, which, by the way, was 8, as you guys do see, the lowest in 2 years, best time to accumulate at these times. And that's exactly where I foresee this happening as well. I think that when we buy up the fear, I think that that is the best time to really buy. And I've told you guys this multiple times. Everyone is still calling for lower. Everyone is still saying, we're in a bear market. What are you, crazy? Why are you even buying right now? Well, guess what? As everybody else is too fearful to buy, I will be the one that is buying. Because at the end of the day, I look at the current market structure. I look at the economy as well. I foresee the dollar collapsing. I don't believe that the dollar is this strong. I think that it is propped up. I've always said this. I've talked to you guys about it. In my opinion, I feel confident buying crypto right now. So with that in mind, you guys do not have to follow what I do. I'm not giving you guys financial advice. I am, buying in because I feel confident buying in right now. And honestly, at these prices, I feel like it's even if you're talking about the major risk, the reward factor after the fact is going to be astronomically high when we get back into a bullish structure. So with this in mind, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on if you guys want more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. As always, I hope that you all have a beautiful day or a beautiful night wherever you guys are in this beautiful world. This has been Nick. Peace out, guys.